Here's Rui Diaz. He has a chance. He scored! And he swept Seattle to within touching distance of an appearance yet again at MLS Cup.
Rui Diaz iced it. The brace for the Peruvian Nico Lodeiro with his 7th goal in playoff history. The Seattle Sounders went to Banc of California Stadium and they ended the best season of all time. We never even got to the point of discussing that because LAFC are out, Seattle are into their third MLS Cup, in 4 years. Welcome to Matchday Central in the AT&T MLS studios. 3 teams left, only one in the Western Conference. That is Brian Schmetzer and the Seattle Sounders. I'm Andrew Wiebe, Calen Carr, Charlie Davies, Dax McCarty. Well, boys, 5 on this set, including Matt Doyle, who's out of your picture right now, said LAFC, we're going to take this game. So, how wrong were we, and why were we wrong? What did you see? We'll start with you, Dax.
Shows you what we know, right? Experts.
Yeah.
I'm shocked, and it's a little bit of both. I'm like a little bit of shocked, a little bit not surprised, because honestly, I think, especially me, I think I undervalued Seattle and what they would bring into this game. I knew it would be a cagey game, but I honestly did not think that Seattle would play as well as they did, and LAFC would play as bad as they did. I think it was extremes on both sides, right? And Seattle came out, they know exactly who they are, right? And they know what they're all about. They're battle-tested in these playoffs. They know exactly what they wanted to do. And LAFC just wasn't up for the fight. They weren't fluid. They weren't as good as they had been the past couple of months. And it was all a recipe for Seattle coming, and it wasn't even a smash and grab. They just played well. They won the game.
You talk about physicality. It was rough. Let's bang them up. Let's not give them anything. And they had 2 games to watch, not only when they played at LAFC this year, but just the games where LAFC struggled this year. What was the common factor? It was the physicality, the approach. And then they didn't give the midfielders time and space. If you're not letting Atuesta pick his head up and choose where he wants to go, well, that's going to spell problems for this LAFC team. And so when you talk about experience and being rough and not giving them time and space, this is what Seattle did, and they did it to perfection.
And let's give Schmetzer a lot of credit for the way he set up this team, because he knew Vela was going to be the number 9. They put a bunch of bodies in front of him. Anytime he dropped off to pick up the ball, he had to dribble by 2 or 3 guys to get there. He often did, which is how they got the call for the goal. But then they pushed everything backwards and sideways. Rossi, every time he had to come in from the right side, went back. He just didn't get into space the way he usually does. And look, we all talked about, yes, Dax, I think we all picked LAFC, of course, and rightly so. They finished 16 points clear of Seattle in the regular season. But this shows why the Seattle team is this Seattle team and why they consistently show up to finals. The whole media can doubt them, and us included. But in that locker room, with that experience, they showed it.
And go ahead.
You go ahead. No,
I just want to say quickly, like, what do we talk about before? Special players being special players. We talked about Lodeiro. We didn't talk about Rui Diaz so much. Carlos Vela, amazing season. Probably one of the best individual seasons in MLS history. Rui Diaz, Lodeiro, those are the names that I'm thinking of, and guys that showed up in the biggest.
And they did it both ways, right?
Exactly.
That was the one thing where LAFC didn't have to contend with that with the Galaxy, of course, because Zlatan's not tracking back. But those guys, their character as number 10s and number 9s, they were coming back and causing problems for that midfield, and then did the business going the other way.
Can I just make a point, though? It wasn't just a 90-minute performance from Seattle Sounders. Brian Schmetzer feeling himself in that post-game clip, calling out our guy Bobby Warshaw and calling out Bob Bradley as well. Guys, this was a performance. This was absolutely stunning. Like, forget the 90 minutes. What happened afterwards?
Yeah.
That was a freaking moment. We don't get enough of that in this league.
We don't. And look,
that was enough. Like,
we're going to take a closer look at that one right after these highlights, because we regretted not looking at the Bob Bradley, Sebi Salazar mano a mano. LAFC rightfully feeling themselves. They got over the hump against the Galaxy. They're back home. Just need a win to get to MLS Cup, which they would have hosted. And then they have the goal to put them ahead. Atuesta with the beautiful free kick, Calen.
Yeah, well, Marufo let them play in this match. I don't think there was a yellow card until the 80th minute, a couple of controversial maybe penalties, and that, I think, was always going to suit Seattle and their style of play. But Seattle were the aggressive team. The LAFC just looked slow to step out. The gap between their back line and their midfield was too large. Rui Diaz and Lodeiro were constantly able to drop off and find that space.
And that's where I think you miss a guy like Marc-Anthony Kaye being fully fit, right? Because you're at home, you have Lee Nguyen, you lose Latif Blessing early to an injury. Marc-Anthony Kaye is a guy in there in the midfield that can help Atuesta cover those spaces. Lodeiro and Rui Diaz feasted off those spaces in front of the back line.
And we saw Arriaga all night hammering these LAFC attackers. I mean, we saw in the first play of the game, shoulder to shoulder with Carlos Vela, he sent a message, a clear message. We're not giving you time and space. And it was Ruidíaz who was the X factor. He did not play in either of the 2 games early this season. You bring him into the fold. We saw what he does for this team. He's a game changer. He's a finisher. And Lodeiro didn't show up the first 2 games. Playoffs, when it matters, the man brings the magic. And they come out with that victory.
Celebrating again, 3rd time in 4 years.
This is
Brian
the magic.
Schmetzer, Bob Bradley having a spirited discussion as the confetti falls around them. Oh, to be a fly on the wall at Bank of California for that one. LAFC, their season is over. The Seattle Sounders on to yet another MLS Cup. Here's your post-game stats. Looks pretty even on paper. LAFC had the possession, but the eye test says otherwise. This was Seattle's game. They played it on their terms, Dax.
Seattle was the better team. I think in the first half, we were all sitting there in the back room watching the game saying, it's 30 minutes into the game, LAFC looks out of rhythm. They look lethargic. They look a little bit methodical in the way that they're trying to move the ball around. They didn't look dynamic. They weren't creating any passing triangles. Their midfield never got going. It was really a perplexing performance, but let's give credit to Seattle. Seattle was the team with the mentality to come out and play the game on their terms. That's exactly what they did, and that was how you had to play in order to win at LAFC.
I think that mentality might have trickled down from their head coach, and as Doyle said, he was feeling it after this victory in the Western Conference Finals. Let's now go check in and see what that interview was like with Sebi Salazar after the final whistle.
Coach, a lot of intensity in this building. How are you feeling after that match?
I feel a lot better than Bob. I mean,
Why do you say that?
Well, because, one team has to sell it. We did it last year. We had Portland celebrating on our home field. So I know what Bob's going through, and it's not a good feeling. We use that as motivation for this playoff run this year. So I get it. It's winners and losers, and these playoff formats are great for the league. And, I'm just so proud of these guys out there and the people up there. The tactics were right. Their effort was right, their mentality was right, and they deserve to win the game.
How did you do it?
Well, I'll let Bobby Warsaw tell me how I did it.
What makes this group special, Coach?
Well, because they never quit. We went down 1-0 to the best, and look, they had the best regular season ever. This is a tremendous team. Bob's a great coach, but we came out, went down a goal, and came back and scored 3 in their home. So you guys tell me if my team deserves some credit.
So tell Brian Schmetzer, does his team deserve some credit? While we're watching that, a camera guy says, I love this guy. I don't know much about him, but I love this guy. Brian Schmetzer winning hearts and minds out there with a brilliant post-game interview. He said it. He's felt this feeling. They felt it last year. Now Bob Bradley is feeling it, and Seattle are moving on. Give the Sounders credit, guys. It's time. What do you have to say about this performance that we haven't already said? Is there anything left to say?
Well, I'm not surprised to see Schmetzer backing his team, and that's the sign of a great manager. Where when you win, it's to the players. When you lose, sometimes it falls on you. And he seems to find himself on the right side of these quite often. I don't think it's by any surprise. It's in this time of year he's able to find those little margins. I watch his post-game pressers, and he's always talking about duels won. It may not be the most expansive, elaborate tactical plan necessarily. It's pretty simple. Funnel it towards the middle. Play compact, win the ball, try and find Ruidíaz, find your playmakers, find your special players. But I'm not surprised to see him back his guys, and in some ways that sort of it carries on to the team.
And I just want to explain, I'm going to jump in here. That's exactly what Bobby Warshaw wrote. That is exactly what Bobby wrote in his pregame column was you have to play a little bit deeper, give up 60, 70% of the ball if you need to, keep your lines tight, win those duels, hit on the break. So
Absolutely.
Bobby did explain how Seattle could win. He just did it before the game.
And I don't want to go, and it's tough because I don't want to go into the semantics without Bobby here to discuss it, but the one thing he said was fear, right? And I think that was the word that got Schmetzer upset most likely. And I think for this team overall, they've heard throughout the week, no chance. They should be afraid of LAFC, the best team ever. And for a while they're saying, well, look, what about us? Our team has been to finals after finals after finals. Why aren't you respecting us? And that's what happened.
And it was the exact opposite of fear. I actually saw confidence in that Seattle team. They went out on the field, like Charlie said, they were physical from the beginning. And in playoff games, that's what you need. You need physicality. But you want to talk about fear? You go down 1-0 to the best team, regular season team in MLS history, you could probably crumble, right? But this team, they're going to their third MLS Cup in 4 years. They score a goal 3-4 minutes after that goal, and they have all the momentum. They don't crumble. They don't panic. They stay calm. They stay collected. They have leaders all over the field. Svensson, Stefan Fry, even young guys, young U.S. internationals, Jordan Morris, Christian Roldan, Nico Ladero. I mean, you go throughout their team, and they just have guys that are super experienced players that have been in the biggest moments. They didn't crumble.
And that's what we talked about. Dax and I were shocked, I think, with the response. You go down a goal on the road, LAFC, we all talked about what a juggernaut they are, how many goals they score, and you come and bang a goal 5 minutes later to get your team in it. And we saw the confidence in them from the start, but when you go down a goal, you got to play differently. They didn't play different. They kept it the same. They stuck with their lines, they stayed physical, and they went and got another goal 4 minutes later. And you thought, wow, they were the better team in the first half, and they really do have a shot to win this. And as the game went on, you really felt that their confidence never wavered and that they really believed that they were going to get the job done.
Second half set up absolutely perfect for them, right? Go into the locker room with a lead, sit, absorb pressure, make your tactical substitutions when you need to, hit them on the break. I think Nuhu came in and had like 4 or 5 just dead sprints into the other half where he had a chance to be one-on-one with the keeper or Brad Smith there at the end. And that's exactly what Seattle wanted in the second half. They gave themselves a chance. They sat deep. They were compact. I don't think I remember one time Diego Rossi getting the ball in behind the Seattle backline and running at them.
They got
maybe one time.
One chance,
one
yeah.
time, right, when he crossed the ball and him and Diamande couldn't connect, right? But that was the only time in the game.
How many shots did we see Carlos Vela take?
Exactly. We talked about this. Carlos Vela had one shot. Wasn't dangerous. Stefan Fry had no difficult saves to make.
I have to jump in here, guys. We're going to go live out to Bank of California Stadium. Bob Bradley in his post-game press conference. We'll hear what Bob has to say.
Ready? First, frustrating way to end the season. We've had experience now where we know what certain games will be like in terms of now teams that have a strong game plan, clog the middle, in an aggressive physical way, try to disrupt us from being able to play. Game starts, it's difficult to get much of a rhythm going, but we were still fortunate to get the first goal on the free kick. And then there's some defensive plays where we don't handle some situations great. So I think the first one, Tyler's trying to play out to our right side. The ball floats a little bit too much, and Arriaga wins the header, and it turns into a little bit of an advantage. And we still have numbers, but when Ladero plays to Rui Diaz, it's a play where Eddie decides he wants to step in and maybe win the ball. He's a little bit unlucky, but he could also control the moment. The next one, when the ball came inside, we had enough numbers. Edward ends up dropping into the back line, and when the ball comes across, we're a little bit slow to step up. That one was Ladero, right? Yeah. So, and then, we still felt that at halftime we could push the game more, and I think we had a fairly good start to the second half, and then off of a long ball, the decision. It looks like Walker's going to head it back to Tyler, and then we decide not to, and then again the ball comes loose and turns into that kind of situation. So, look, we've had these games. We've had moments where we are the team trying to push the game. We're the team that's going to spend more time in their end. But your ability to control some of those transition moments and your ability then when you need to make a play, get a save. So those things let us down tonight. And in terms of our attacking play, it's pretty simple. I don't think that tonight we were good enough. When we needed to be a little sharper, when we needed to move the ball a little quicker, we got caught at times dribbling where you'd get by the first guy, but they were committed and tight, and so the next thing you know, the second guy's always waiting. So, the kind of things that we would talk about and work on all year in terms of how many touches, and when you start to dribble at the second guy and their team's coming, can you get it off your feet? These are football things. And so I don't think we were very good on the night. And that turns into a frustrating way to end the season.
Bob, when you look at the stats, it's an LAFC game. Dominated time of possession, the passing stats are real good, but Carlos had one shot and didn't seem to have much success getting wide. Was it something they did in particular?
They had numbers back. They clogged the middle. They defended in a compact, strong way. And if you don't move the ball quick enough, then when you get up there, it's not easy to get shots. So I think we had for the game 4 shots on goal. So in those ways, when I say a second ago that I don't think we're good enough on the night, it's moving the ball quicker so we get a little bit of an advantage, and in some cases it's winning the ball a little bit higher so maybe we can create an advantage that way.
Bob, when you look at your legacy for this season, do you have a feel for it yet?
Carlos Vela, the subject of that final question there in Bob's press conference. Ongoing, full coverage, MLSsoccer.com, the MLS app. There you see Carlos Vela getting bowled over by Xavier Arriaga, sending a message early. Vela was, of course, going to be under the microscope in this game, win or loss here. What'd you make of his performance? Did he do enough, or was he held back by Seattle's performance as well as just the lackadaisical one by his teammates?
He did all he could. I mean, when he was on the ball, he tried, like you saw, that play right there led to the eventual goal from Atuesta. But it was Seattle's game plan, limiting the space around him, surrounding him with 2 or 3 guys, forcing LAFC to beat you with someone else. And then Diego Rossi, where was he? You didn't see him appear at all. That's a player who, when you have him not playing into space, not running in behind, what is he going to do for you? And tonight, nothing. So this LAFC team needs to figure out different ways to hurt you, which they've seen all year. But when it comes to a team that's going to bang you up, be aggressive, and really be tactically disciplined, like the Seattle team, when you talk about experience, Svensson, you talked about him being a beast defensive midfielder, covering the space, being responsible. Up until the 80th minute, he was tracking guys into the midfield, making sure he was not letting guys turn. No one felt comfortable on this LAFC team, and that was the difference.
And that's why Seattle deserves a lot of credit because, I mean, teams, this is no secret, teams have tried to be physical with LAFC before. But I think when you go throughout the entire roster of Seattle who started the game, even down to Lodero and Rui Diaz, we talked about this, we saw both of those guys tracking back probably 30 yards from their own goal to win tackles. LAFC just wasn't used to that. And Carlos Vela, sure, there was some physicality against him, but to me, it looked like he was forcing it a little bit too much. Both him and Rossi, they both took a lot of touches on the ball, right? And those are the types of players that they are, but I think when they're at their best, they're playing 1 and 2 touch and combining, moving, passing, moving. They're all taking up spaces in between lines, right? And then they're getting guys running to goal, getting crosses across the goal on the ground in front of goal. So we didn't see any of that. I think Bob said it, 4 shots on goal. That's like, I think LAFC probably averaged like 18, 19, 20 shots on goal a game. I mean, that's how dominant they were. Seattle deserves a credit. LAFC was a little lackadaisical. I think Carlos Vela maybe coming off the high of beating the Galaxy and getting the best of Zlatan and finally winning that game. I mean, I just think there's no way you can follow up the adrenaline of that game with this, and that's part of the reason why they're not going to MLS Cup.
Maybe an issue with that midfield as well. So consistent all year together,
yeah,
a unit working.
I thought losing
Latif
hurt,
out, and
right?
the K can't start. Lee has to come in.
They didn't look
fully
fully healthy. They didn't look fully healthy, and Latif going out I thought was a big blow because when the game needs energy, and it did in the first half for this LAFC team, he was the one that was up for it. And once he came out of the game, I think that was an issue. Vela was buried as the number 9. Rossi on the right side, a right-footed player. He's been so much better on the left, came alive a little bit in the second half. They forced everything towards the middle, clogged it, and there was no space.
All right, let's go back out to Bank of California Stadium. Susannah Collins caught up with Christian Roldan after this win for the Sounders.
Christian, you're already sporting the gear. You guys become only the second team in MLS play this year to beat LAFC at home. How'd you do it?
It wasn't easy. I mean, the amount of possession chances that they
second time that's happened to me.
that they had. I mean, the half chances that we had that our DPs buried. I mean, that's why they get paid the big bucks. So happy that we went up and we were able to possibly score a fourth. But the amount of effort that our team put in was incredible.
This was such a physical match for you guys. I mean, you just took it to them and were absolutely relentless. How big a part of the game plan was that for you?
I mean, it wasn't discussed, but it was it was in the attitude and the intensity that we wanted to play in. We felt that when we played them at home and we brought it to them, we were physical. It got them off their game, and that was a major part of our success today.
Another MLS Cup final for this Sounders team. It's either Atlanta or Toronto. What do you think of either of those matchups with you guys?
Both teams are fantastic. Obviously we want to play at home, so it'll be interesting. It'll be stressful. But the fact that we're in another final, I mean, this franchise is really spoiled, and we need to continue to do so.
Congratulations, Christian. Thanks for the time.
From Christian Roldan, the Sounders are really spoiled. Third MLS Cup appearance in 4 years now. It could be a repeat. Could be Toronto Sounders yet again. Now, if Atlanta win tomorrow night and knock off the Reds, they will host this thing. Otherwise, if Toronto win, it is going back to Seattle for the final game. I said before this game, guys, in my column, that this is basically the cream of the MLS crop. All four of these teams, ambition, talent, a desire to change the game, to push the envelope. The Sounders, a model of consistency, here yet again. What does it say?
I think it says you can build teams in a lot of different ways, but it also says that recently, the last 4 or 5 years, if you spend money in MLS and you spend money wisely, smartly on the right players to build your team around, you're going to be successful. That's what it says to me.
And if you can keep a team together for years, I mean, the nucleus of this team is still with Ladero, and they've added to it with Ruiz Diaz coming in, made the right signings throughout, and then have also developed young American talent as far as Christian Roldan and Jordan Morris as well. So they've made all the right choices in this one, but been able to keep that core group for year after year after year, which, as you know, is so tough to do in MLS.
And no Chad Marshall. They lost probably the best central defender in MLS history earlier this season, the rock of all those playoff runs and the MLS Cup victory in seasons past. Now, Nico Ladero came to this team at 27 from River Plate in Uruguay, but Raul Ruiz Diaz is the guy tonight who's sort of the most recent MLS 3.0 addition. Went down to Liga MX, spent millions of dollars on him, got the proven goal scorer, and this is why you do it, because in the big moments, in the playoffs, he now has 6 goals in 5 games. That's what he does, Charlie.
And it's his runs, it's his tenacity. It's similar to Joseph Martinez, where you want more. You could tell he's always pushing and he's giving you the hard work. He does it on both sides of the ball. And that's what's so special about him is in these key moments, you know he's going to show up. And there was countless times where a half chance, for him, it's a quality chance. The cutback ball that's bouncing at his shins, he still makes a good effort at it, and it just goes wide. This is one of those players that I watch and I'm really impressed by, and he's very entertaining.
He is the difference maker and was tonight for the Seattle Sounders. Let's go now to the board and Matt Doyle for a little breakdown on those first 2 goals. Doyle, what'd you see?
Lack of urgency from LAFC, and specifically on the defensive side, obviously. And look, we've talked about the lack of Mark Anthony Kaye. This is Lee Nguyen, who's in there for him, trying to be connected to Edouard Atuesta. But once Atuesta comes out to press, Nguyen is not as urgent as he needs to be to get central and prevent that ball from going to Nico Ladero. That is the most important real estate on the field. Yes, Ruiz Diaz makes a great play to step away from Segura, but that play shouldn't have happened in the first place. And this right here, I mean, if that is Gustav Svensson, if that's Gustav Svensson making that play instead of Edouard Atuesta, the forward is on his back. You have to have game recognition. You have to understand Jair Marufo is not giving any cards out. You have to understand you have not committed a foul yet. So when the forward gets the ball right there, you bury that man. Atuesta doesn't, you still have time to actually get back and make the right play. But as Bob Bradley said in his post-game press conference, Atuesta kind of doesn't read it. He drops too deep in with the back line, gives Ladero space right at the top of the box. Again, this is the most important real estate on the field. LAFC gave that up so many times tonight, but specifically goal number 1, goal number 2, goal number 3. The lack of chemistry, the lack of urgency and bite in that central midfield, the Sounders killed them for that all night. That's why Seattle's going to MLS Cup.
Best defensive record in the regular season. Well, doesn't matter come playoffs. 3-1 win for the Seattle Sounders. They have moved their way through the Western Conference playoff field, knocked off FC Dallas in a wild one, 4-3, handled RSL at home, 2-0, then 3-1 on the road at Bank of California Stadium, where only Minnesota United had won this season. The Sounders are on to MLS Cup. And we're going back out to LA. Susannah Collins caught up with Jordan Morris after this match.
All right, Jordan, a potent LAFC attack was no match for you guys tonight. After they scored that free kick, you absolutely shut them down. How did you do it?
Amigo, this guy played a big part. Big credit to Javi coming in, stepping in, doing a really good job. But it was a team effort. You guys saw Raul defending Nico. Everyone was on the same page, and obviously some amazing goals from Nico and Raul too. So we got one more game, but we'll enjoy this moment.
Raul Ruidiaz was immense in this one. A brace for him. What does he bring to this team, especially here tonight?
He's honestly one of the best finishers I've ever seen. You see those, he gets those 2 chances and puts them away. In training, it's unbelievable to watch him. So, but what I was impressed with today is hold-up play so well, and his defensive, help. He was all over the field. So, huge performance from him, and we're lucky to have him.
Jordan, just a special season for you, comeback player of the year, to now be at this point where you're going to another MLS Cup final. Can you put it in words what it means?
No, just hearing you say that gives me chills, and after last year to be back at this point is so exciting for me, for the team. It's just I love playing soccer, so it's just great to be back.
Jordan, congratulations. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
All smiles for the Sounders, but at the end of every one of these playoff nights, well, it's time to take a soul. We didn't think it would be LAFC's soul. So much discussion about the best team of all time, but they had to do one thing to claim that, and that's win MLS Cup. Doyle, give the eulogy.
Yeah, they didn't win MLS Cup. They remind me of the 2001 Miami Fusion or the 2005-2012 Quakes as well. 2014 LA Galaxy, both Atlanta United and Red Bulls from last year. Teams that made a case as the best MLS team of all time, but only won one of the 3 trophies they were competing for. Whatever happens from here on out in 2019, I will remember this LAFC team first and foremost because they were that good. This was their season. But we'll remember them equally for what they didn't do as what they did do. And as for what happens next year, how you make this right, I don't think you do. I think you have to go back and watch Brian Schmetzer's post-game interview with Sebi Salazar on ESPN, where he said, "We were here last year. We saw Portland celebrating on our own field, and we used that to motivate us into 2019. Sounders are in MLS Cup this year. LAFC, watch that. Look at them celebrate. You know what you have to do in 2020.
Another opportunity coming. Not so far down the line for Bob Bradley and LAFC, but first, another conference final on Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, FS1, TSN TVA. Toronto FC are headed to Atlanta. Toronto trying to go to their 3rd MLS final in 4 years as well and set up that rematch against the Seattle Sounders. Atlanta trying to defend their MLS Cup championship from a year ago. Joseph Martinez, probably not Josie Altidore, but Alejandro Pozuelo should be a big part of this one. How you feeling right now, Calen, when you think about this matchup?
Well, it's hard after tonight to not take the lessons to say maybe don't overlook things and just go ahead and anoint Atlanta United, especially when you look at a side as experienced as Toronto FC. I think the difference for me may be that this Atlanta United team does have that same experience. They are the defending champions. And then it's going to come down to question marks around health. That's still a big storyline heading into tomorrow night.
How much does health matter for Toronto at this point, Charlie, given that they've won 2 straight games without Josie Altidore?
Oh, it definitely matters. I mean, it's a boost if you can get Josie Altidore to come off the bench. Even if he's there, his presence, what he adds to this team, and that attacking third. But Pozuelo, he's the DP. He's your main guy when it comes to attacking threat. You need him to show up tomorrow, just like Lodero did today. You need him to be influential like he has in these playoff games. And if he can, then it really gives this Toronto team a shot. And as well as Michael Bradley. I mean, we haven't really talked about him. His presence, being smart, not getting pulled out of position, keeping everyone organized in the midfield. It should be an entertaining game.
This was the dream result for the Five Stripes, Dax. Now they will host MLS Cup if they take care of business at home. What's the formula for success for Frank de Boer?
And they're licking their chops right now. They're watching that game, rooting for Seattle probably harder than anybody else in the league because they want to host. They know what happened last year against another team from Cascadia. So they have to get the job done first against Toronto. I think Calen was spot on. No one's going to be overlooking Toronto based on what happened. And also their experience. Toronto's experience, unbelievable. They've got guys that have been through battle-tested before. So for me, Atlanta, it comes down to how they set up defensively, right? We've seen how they set up, sometimes 3, sometimes 4, sometimes 5. And we talk about all their different players. LPG, we talk about Miles Robinson, Parkey. One guy for me that's really underrated is Franco Escobar. I mean, this is a guy who I've always been a big fan of. He's a guy who's really versatile. You can play him at center back. You can play him at right back. He scored huge goals for them, massive goals for them in his career there. His relationship with Julian Gressel, extremely impressive. That's going to be an X factor for me, as well as who wins the battle in midfield between, like you said, Michael Bradley, Darlington Nagbe. Sneaky, unbelievable season from Darlington Nagbe. Probably best 11 worthy in any other season where you don't have so many great offensive midfielders putting up great numbers. But for me, he's going to be the X factor for Atlanta.
For Atlanta, it's the Joseph Martinez show. What Joseph will we see tomorrow, Calen? What do you feel?
We actually haven't seen the best of him this playoffs, which is kind of scary for Toronto FC. And even in the limited chances, I mean, he missed a couple, but then you see the quality on the left foot. And he's never a guy that's going to doubt himself. Most teams have their personality maybe start from the back or their spine up the middle. With Atlanta United, it starts up front. He gives them their personality, their edge, and then everybody else has to live up to his expectations. How he matches up, that's why I'm interested to see if Omar is ready. If Omar Gonzalez is ready, his playoff experience, I know all too well. But I think if he could get into this match, I think that would be a big boost for Toronto FC.
Yeah, and it's Omar's experience. Allowing Joseph to be in front of you and not giving him the space behind you. Because as soon as you push up on this Atlanta attacking players and you push up your lines high and you don't give the necessary pressure on their midfielders, that's when the ball's in behind. And before you know it, Joseph Martinez is running on goal and it's 1-0. So it's Omar Gonzalez being smart, being organized. Quentin Westberg, who we know very well, playing with the youth national team level, fantastic goalie. If they're on point and can read and anticipate these plays, they put themselves in a good position to compete.
Charlie, you want to ask me this question tonight or tomorrow? Do Toronto FC have a chance? Any chance at all? Want to think on it? Mull a little bit?
My bracket is completely busted.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So I'm not going to go on any more guessing and put on these charades for all you guys with these with my.
Maybe Bobby can write an article.
It didn't feel like a charade. It felt like you had true belief. We'll give you till tomorrow to think about it.
I mean, we all. I'm not going to speak for.
That's true.
I'm not going to really call anybody out, but we all thought that the game was going to go down.
I'm not going to call anybody out. Then he just called everybody out.
But I'm not going to go specifically. But
you know who all of you were.
Correct.
If we're being honest, I don't know if anyone outside of Seattle was picking Seattle. And that's why it's so impressive. They did what they had to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we know Atlanta's a favorite. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. We got the full preview coming tomorrow. Matchday Central, the pregame show, 7 p.m. Eastern. Dax is back with us, although we don't have the fancy headshot and pose for you, Dax.
We'll take one today.
That.
We'll take one tonight.
Okay. All right. Calen, myself, Matt, and Charlie back in tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, though, the Seattle Sounders are hitting the town in L.A. They've got, about 12 days till November 10th. That's MLS Cup. That is where they are heading for the third time in 4 years. What's that look like to you, boys? Let's get a lot of fun.
Yeah, they're going to Hollywood.
Yeah?
They're going to Hollywood right now.
Yeah, tell me where they're going out, Charlie. I think you might know.
Yeah.
What's the club?
Someone keep an eye on Roman Torres. Make sure he doesn't get in any trouble.
Okay, Seattle Sounders enjoying this one as they should. Doubted, but victorious. Headed to their third MLS Cup in 4 years. We'll see you tomorrow night, everybody.